Nathan Stanford, and we're looking at JavaScript Fundamentals, Episode 2. We're going to work on helping you learn JavaScript and feeling like you're mastering it. Obviously, there's nothing you can do except to program to get to mastery. If you're driving a car, and the more you drive it, if you then go out to drive a race car, it'll be a totally different experience. The only way to get good at roller skating is to go out and roller skate. The only way to get good at ice skating is to go out and ice skate. The only way to get good at programming is to program. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the stuff I have here. I created a thing called a checklist. So let's just look at it. It's a markdown page, and if you do Control-Shift-P and look, if you don't have an extension that will view Markdown, you can go get one. I'm just going to open up the Markdown. So what you want to do is go through each of these steps, and I will be adding more and more things to this as time goes. We'll work on projects and different things. But first, what we're going to work on is this section up here that we're working on, which is the JavaScript fundamentals. If you learn how to program in one language, you pretty much know how to program in the other languages. You just need to understand how to do the syntax to make the other language do the same things that you already learned. So I created this checklist so that as you go through this checklist, you can mark off, okay, I understand what an arrow function is. Okay, I understand how to do variables and the different data types. So that you don't go back and watch 20, 30, 40, 50 more videos on JavaScript, variables, and data types. Once you understand it, you check it off. Yes, you will continue to learn more about them as you code, and you'll get more proficient with them. But first, you want to at least feel comfortable enough to check it off. So one of the other things that I want to bring up, let's go to back to here. One of the things I want to say about this is that one of the things every programmer tends to have is the imposter syndrome. No matter how good you get, you never feel good enough. You always want to be better, and so you're constantly trying to learn more and more and more. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So when you don't feel good enough, that's a good thing. When you start thinking you're great and you're awesome and you're fine, you don't need to study anything, then you probably should, check yourself at the door and start looking at what can I do to become better, because the web's constantly changing. Every 6 months or more or less, you need to be learning new stuff. If you're not learning new stuff, then you're losing, you're dying. You need to be learning new stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through at least the JavaScript fundamentals and see just how much time that takes. If we have time, we might go look at some more stuff. So let's pull up this. So we want to look at variables and data types. What I did here, this is just a simple HTML page. You have to look at the console to see the results of the page. So before I go look at the console, let's go look at that page. So let's go to this first page, scroll down, and we can look here and see to set a variable. Now they're used to an old JavaScript. If you're looking at old JavaScript, you'll see instead of the name let, you'll see var name equals. And that was something you could do, but I recommend you using let. There is one more that you can do as a const, where if you're going to let a variable, let's say year started equals 1996 or something like that. What this means is this const, if this is never going to change, it's going to always be that year. So you can make that a constant, put a semicolon on the end. You can make that a constant. It's a string right now, but since it's a number, I probably should have it as a number, but it's representing the year 1996. So you can say let name equals John, and now that's a string that it can be used in different areas. Age, 30. Height, you can have floats where it be 175.5 for the height. Although that doesn't really sound much like a height, does it? I'm going to change this to weight. So I'm going to change it to 275 and a half. And this is, I'm going to say pounds. Then you can set a city that's string. Now here's Boolean, where you can say is married or not, and it's set to true. You can set it to false. You can set it to 1 and 2, I believe, and it would still work, but I would recommend you set it to true and false, so it's really clear to somebody who comes to look at your code. Now, another thing, you can do an array, set up an empty array, or set up an object. And what we'll do is we'll look at something related to that in just a minute. So here, when you're printing out to the console, you can print out the name. So it takes this name and outputs the name, and outputs the age, all of these different things. It outputs each one of those. So when you want to try to remember and try to memorize the different kinds of array versus structure, what I recommend is you take arrays. Arrays are square, and O's, since they're round, are curly. Or you can say, or they're not square. But I think A's, in fact, I'm going to get rid of the or not, because that just doesn't sound right. A's are square, and O's are curly. I mean, objects are curly. Arrays are square, objects are curly. So think of arrays being the square. So as OC, maybe as Ocean City. As you can come up with whatever words that help you remember. And you might even, when you first start coding a lot in JavaScript, you may even want to print it out or write on those on a post-it note and put it somewhere until you memorize it. And then that will help you. And as you can see here, one of the things that we're demonstrating here is we're changing a string to a number. So if you can parse it to be an int, then it will convert that to a number. If you want to take a number and convert it back to a string, you can. You can convert a Boolean to a string. You can convert a number to a Boolean. It'll turn this to true because it's greater than, it's not 0. Here you're taking a string and you're putting it inside the object, and here you're putting it into the age into the object, a number. Up here, demonstrate operations on different data types, so you can see all the different things you can do. If you feel uncomfortable with any of this, like here, you can take a string and you can add functions on. And there's a lot more functions than this. You might want, if you think I want to be able to do this to a string or that to a string, you might look up a function or do a search to find out what is this. By learning this and understanding that they exist, then you can real easily jump and create JavaScript where you're changing the string, or maybe you're pushing an item onto the array or popping it off the array, and then here you can get keys of the particular object, all the keys of the object. So this is going to show up when you go look at the console. You hit in Windows, you hit F12, and you look here in the console. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go see why that's throwing that. Oh, I changed it. I changed it from height to weight. So let's go here. Let's go like this, weight, and we'll make a capital W, and we'll change this to weight. Save, go back here. and it's refreshed. Height is not defined. Do I have height still in here somewhere? I thought height. Okay, so let's change this to weight. And it refreshed. Okay, I'm going to ignore that. I'll go look at that in just a minute. But you can look here. So here you've got John. You can look at all the different operations that are being ran inside of the code, and you can kind of look at what each one of them is. So this is the place I'm going to stop, and I'll create the next video for operations and control and flow. So I'm trying to keep them short so that you can watch these, and then what you want to do is maybe print off this checklist as a PDF. So you might want to print this as a PDF, and then when you know you're comfortable, you can check off this box and say, okay, I feel comfortable. I've written shown by writing code that helps me demonstrate that I can use the different data types. And then the next video will be on operations, control, and flow, and then we'll do one on functions, so forth and so on. So let's stop there, and we'll come back with operators and control and flow.